Welcome to Saxon Math Course 2, Lesson 16. Today we're talking about U.S. customary system and function tables. Our objectives for today: after this lesson you should be able to convert and estimate units of weight, length, and liquid measure in the U.S. customary system, study pairs of numbers to determine the rule for a function and use the rule to find an unknown number, and use function tables to solve problems. Some review from last time. We talked about equivalent fractions, which you find by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. We also talked about reducing, which is when you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And remember, when we're reducing, most times we want to get to the lowest terms, so we use the greatest common factor as that number that we divide with. Let's talk about measuring. So the system that you're used to using is called the U.S. customary system. That's the system that we use in the United States. It includes your gallons, inches, miles, pounds. Those are all measurements that really only the United States uses. We're pretty much the only people that use them. So let's talk about weight first, because it's the one with the least amount of units. So in our units of weight, we have ounces, pounds, and tons. So you're going to see how many of those are in the next measurement up. So in 1 pound, we have 16 ounces, and in 1 ton, we have 2,000 pounds. Let's look at units of length. 12 inches in a foot, that's your ruler. 3 feet in a yard. A yard's about a big step that you take. 1,760 yards in a mile. And we also talk about there being 5,280 feet in a mile, which makes sense because if you did 1,760 times 3, because there are 3 feet in each yard, you would get 5,280 as your answer. And we also have units of liquid measure. So in liquid measure, don't confuse this with the ounces and pounds, because remember there's 16 ounces in a pound, that's a unit of weight. Units of liquid measure, 8 ounces are in a cup. So that's a liquid ounce, fluid ounce sometimes it's called. There are 2 cups in a pint. 2 pints in a quart, and 4 quarts in a gallon. The other thing we talk about is temperature. In the U.S. customary system, we measure our temperature in Fahrenheit. And there are some important Fahrenheit temperatures that you should commit to memory. At 212 degrees Fahrenheit, water boils. So if you're cooking and you see your water in a rolling boil where all the bubbles are bubbling, that water is at 212 degrees. 98.6 degrees is the normal temperature for your body. 68 degrees is average room temperature. And at 32 degrees, water freezes. Let's look a little at converting units of measurement, so moving from one unit to another one. If your unit that you start with is a smaller unit of measure, and you're going to a bigger unit, like from inches to feet, or from ounces to pounds, you're going to divide by the unit multiplier, which we call the unit multiplier. That's the number that connects the two measurements together. So for example, if you were converting 60 inches into feet, you would divide 60 divided by 12, because there are 12 inches in 1 foot. That's the number that connects those two measurements. And we're going from inches to feet, smaller to bigger, so we divide. 60 divided by 12 is 5, so there are 5 feet in 60 inches. If you go the other direction, from a larger unit to a smaller unit, then you multiply. So, for example, if you're going from gallons to quarts, you need to multiply by how many quarts are in 1 gallon. So if we want to do 6 gallons, there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon, so we multiply. 6 times 4 is 24, so there are 24 quarts in 6 gallons. The other part of our lesson is about functions. Functions are a rule that identifies the relationship between two sets of numbers. Usually these are displayed in a function table. Here's an example of a function table. It'll be some kind of input on the left and some kind of output on the right. So input is the number that we're using to put into the function. Output is the number that comes out because of what the function is. So if you look at this table, notice that for each input number to get the output number, we're multiplying by 3. So the rule for this function would be input number times 3 equals output number. So if I told you, oh, I want you to find the 8th number in this chart, you would just do 8 times 3 and it would be 24. That's all for your lesson this time. Make sure you do your practice problems. Post any questions you have so we can talk about them in class, and we will see you next time.